Intelligence. So with relations growing frostier, deciding to pause cyber operations against Russia, blamed for a string of cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns. Charlie James has more.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered U.S. Cyber Command is the military's cyber wing conducting offensive and U.S. media reporting the news on Sunday, though Russian state media linking it to Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's heated Oval Office.
The head of the Pentagon, according to a specialized publication, ordered the U.S. Cyber Command to stop Russia. This is the result of yesterday's meeting between Trump and Zelensky, which turned into a
But the New York Times reports that the instructions were issued before Friday's effort to bring Russian President Vladimir Putin into talks on the war in Ukraine. Military operations during sensitive negotiations are not uncommon, though not without. There is no guarantee Putin will reciprocate and let up on attacks against the U.S., attacks on hospitals, infrastructure, and cities. And just last week, U.S. allies said Russian cyber warfare is part of a wider campaign against Europe.
In our waters, in our airspace, and on our streets. Cyber attacks on our NHS.
A U.S. pause in offensive cyber impact cooperations between the U.S. and Europe to fight back against online Russia.
For more, let's cross to London. Melanie Garson is Associate Professor, National Conflict Resolution and Security at University College London. Thank you for speaking with us here on France.
Good evening.
First question. What does it mean to stop operations against Russia?
Well, there's a particular type of operations. These were actually first started in 2018, formally by Donald Trump in his first term. The type of activities that sort of involve pre-positioning actions within the networks, particularly the U.S. networks. Necessarily, the U.S. has been providing a huge to Ukraine with these offensive operations, and called a Defend Forward platform that was really to try and get adversarial actions by Russia.
What consequences does it have in the immediate term?
Well, the US itself, and what has been made clear, is that this is differentiated from, and CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency that is run out of Homeland Security, this does not apply for them. They work on the defensive side. So the work to defend US infrastructure will continue. It also doesn't seem to apply to the work to engage in what we would call cyber espionage. What is going on seems to not be affected. What it seems to be is a commitment not to engage in the type of adversarial action works. So it's a little bit vague on the edges, and in some it's seen as a gesture to some extent, but for others it would be seen removal of a certain element of cyber support for Ukraine.
Are you surprised because the Russian guarantees?
We'd receive Russian guarantees, as it was said a little bit earlier. Often there can be pause, say, if you want hostilities whilst there's a negotiation going on. You usually expressed so publicly. But we're in the nature of diplomacy. But it's unlikely that Russia would completely different approach to how they structure their cyber operations, with a very holistic approach, an all-encompassing approach. And whilst they may not necessarily direct US interests, and often ransomware groups don't target places to Russia at the time, that doesn't mean they would be stopping against Ukraine or against those countries that they perceive are supporting.
And with this pause coming from the United States, can I deduce from your last European nations more?
It could put them more on the front line. I would expect that every agency within Europe, which would necessarily have, will be making sure that that is super tight. Both CISA in end of 24, they declared Russia, and then during other countries, including UK, have also declared them a threat, puzzled by this statement. So there will be a lot of action taken and plug the gap a little bit, but make sure particularly their critical infrastructure extra defended.
So, Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are concentric circles.